Hey folks, it's Sam here today talking about the full moon in Cancer that's happening on January 25th. I'm doing this on January 23rd at 4:10 p.m. in San Diego. And so on January 25th, we have the full moon in Cancer that's happening in Pushya Nakshatra. And the sun is over here in Capricorn. We're going to be talking about this. We also have quite a bit of energy here still in Sagittarius with Venus, Mercury, and Mars. We also have Rahu up here in Pisces. So there's still a lot of Jupiter energy. Jupiter is aspecting all those planets as well. There's an exchange between Mars and Jupiter. A lot of stuff going on right now. We're going to do a review of those things overall so you can feel that energetic force. But we're going to be focusing mainly here on this full moon in Cancer that's happening. And again, we're in 2024 now. It's upon you, and there's a lot of shifts that are ahead. As you see, this is the 2024 free Vedic astrology class that I taught that you have access to. Go to 2024vedicastrology.com. You can see we already are experiencing that first one, January 1st, Jupiter direct in Aries. Again, that happened right at the beginning of the year. And also all those planets in Sagittarius. But we have a big shift that's coming up February 5th with exalted Mars in Capricorn, fight the good fight. Then we have this Mercury retrograde, April 1st to 24th, as well as a solar eclipse coming up as well in April 8th with this eclipse in Pisces as these planets move through here. So again, you should really look at this 2024 Vedic astrology forecast. It's free. Go to 2024vedicastrology.com to download the 11 most important shifts in 2024. Don't be blindsided by the upcoming eclipses, retrogrades. You can get the free forecast, which is both the PDF download as well as the free video report. And again, this free report will allow you to discover important shifts for your sign, how to align with higher wisdom and purpose and hope in 2024 as Jupiter shifts and moves into Taurus. Also, different placements such as exalted Mars at the beginning of the year, debilitated Mars at the end of the year, the big 1-2 punch at the beginning of this year, when and how communication problems will be occurring throughout the year with the Mercury retrograde cycles, all kinds of other things that you want to understand. This is a free PDF download and then also a free web class. So go ahead, go to 2024vedicastrology.com and download that now. So yeah, that's really going to help you. So let's jump into this full moon in Cancer. Now, of course, when we have the full moons, as you see, the moon is opposite the sun and the earth is in the middle. I actually put the moon here in the middle. The earth would actually be in the middle in between the sun and the moon, but I like this graphic, so I wanted to put a nice moon there. So again, the earth is in between the sun and the moon, and so that means that the moon is full and we can see it in its fullness and its brightness. But you want to understand that it's part of a cycle that has as much to do or more to do with the Capricorn themes than with the Cancer themes, because that's where the sun is, and the sun is where we're living that 30-day cycle. And so the full moon is the opposite point where we're trying to integrate the lessons of the sun, because the sun is that focal point of consciousness. And right now the sun is in Capricorn, where we are trying to concentrate on those things that are worth focusing on. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So those Saturn themes are very important now. Saturn is also powerful in Aquarius. So we're very aware of the implications of the Saturn themes in life now. And the real consequences, actually, since 2020, when Saturn went into Capricorn, we've gotten very serious, and it's been a very serious kind of paradigm shifting time. So now this sun in Capricorn is really illuminating those things. What are you really committed to? What's worth focusing on? What's worth concentrating on? that's a big part of your life now. Those themes that are worth focusing on, worth concentrating your energy on. And one of the things to understand is that Saturn kind of numbs us to how we feel. Capricorn is not a sign that is driven by your emotions and how you feel about things. And, we tend to exalt our emotions over everything, particularly, with these kinds of teaching. Oh, my feelings, my emotions. Oh, I got to be connected to the heart. Look, you have to connect to the heart in very specific ways. And for example, when you're trying to accomplish your goals, when you're trying to accomplish something, many times you need to put your feelings aside and do what you know is right, regardless of how you feel in the moment, in order to accomplish your goal. By the way, that usually includes things like having to deal with people you don't really like dealing with, having to deal with situations where you already know going in that you're going to be uncomfortable, because the moon, which is symbolized obviously by the sign of Cancer, that sign, but also the moon itself, is the part of you that wants to be comfortable and happy and doesn't like all of the worldly responsibility, the pressure of life. But you're not here to just feel good. Your life on earth is not just, how can I feel good all the time? And again, I say this, but maybe that's a shocking revelation to you. By the way, most people, if not most, so many people live their life as if that's the point. The point is to feel good and be happy all the time. Like that's the point. Like, I mean, you can see it. It's a little crazy, and not just to say about online, but it's remarkable how you can see even online now and whatnot, how much people have almost zero tolerance for feeling uncomfortable. Even when it's like none of their business, something will happen. Like someone will post something online, let's say, that another person doesn't like. We have the choice to just kind of go on. We don't have to make a big point, but, oh, I didn't like that. That made me uncomfortable. It made me unhappy. Well, so what? For example, but I'm just using this as an extemporaneous example of how, as if our whole life is just to be comfortable. Everybody is supposed to make us comfortable and happy. Everything's supposed to make us happy and comfortable. Again, this is a very moon idea. And as also related to the sign of Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. Now, again, we're supposed to find the things that make us comfortable and happy. It's not like we're not, but I'm saying it's a very specific area of life. And the sun is a very specific area of life, which is about our work and our duties and our highest purpose, which is not about being comfortable and happy. It's about knowing the self. And the sun is the part of us that's trying to burn off all of the illusions of the world, which most of the illusions start with the thing I just said, all those things related to the moon, which is, I'm this person who grew up in this family, who has this history, who feels this way about things. The sun is actually the thing that's trying to kind of purge us or purify us or bring detachment from the attachment to that idea or that identity that revolves around being comfortable and happy all the time. So the sun is always trying to do that wherever he is. So going through Capricorn right now, again, the sun is in a place that's saying, and especially Capricorn, which is the least emotional. That's why I'm talking about it this way. Because again, the most emotional and the most oriented towards wanting to be comfortable and happy is the sign of Cancer, where we have this full moon. So again, it's very powerful there, and I'm going to explain that power. But first, you have to, again, start it with where the sun is. And again, in this case, the sun is in Capricorn, which is the least concerned with how we feel. In fact, it's opposite of that. It's saying, in fact, it's almost sort of anathema to feeling good about our feelings, about our emotions. The Capricorn energy is like, well, if I'm too emotionally attached or if I'm too comfortable emotionally, then I'm weak and I'm vulnerable, and that's not good. So with the sign of Capricorn, we're even a little bit suspicious of our emotions and our feelings, and we feel vulnerable with our emotional attachments, which is the sign of Cancer. In many ways, the sign that's opposite the other one is where we feel the most vulnerable or the most confused about it. So the sun in Capricorn, again, and it entered Capricorn on January 15th. And then for the next like 30 days, from like January 15th to like mid-February, February 14th or 15th, the sun goes through Capricorn. That time is where we're supposed to be really looking at and taking a practical, rational, in fact, unemotional look at our life and really seeing what's actually working over time. Aside from how I feel about it, what I want. Again, this is all Cancer moon stuff, but how do I feel about Saturn through Capricorn is actually like, forget that. What is really going on? Taking a cold, rational look at things and seeing the value in that and saying, okay, maybe I feel this way, but what's really happening here? So that's actually a very strong, that's where we need to start with the analysis of this full moon. And this is why we can tend to feel kind of, I wouldn't say depressed, but we feel not so excited when the sun goes through Capricorn, because it's that kind of rational look at things. And so when we get the full moon here, it's to harmonize that. It's to balance that. It's to harmonize the lack of juicy emotion, devotion of Capricorn with the devotion, the authentic devotion of the sign of Cancer. Now, you might be saying, well, I don't know. I feel pretty emotional these days. I feel pretty devotional. Part of that is because Rahu just went into Pisces. There are other things that's showing why these days we can feel this sense of hope and purpose and devotion. Also, again, all these planets in Sagittarius. So there's quite a lot of, especially Jupiter energy that's flowing right now. A lot of it. Particularly in December of last year, 2023, Rahu went into Pisces, which is a very devotional sign. So we could be feeling, but again, that's more devotional about larger themes. Like for some reason, even though the world seems quite certain things feel even kind of a bit hopeless, there's a kind of irrational, like somehow it's going to work out. I feel devotional. I feel devoted to the notion that somehow it's all working out in a larger context. This is kind of that Rahu in Pisces. But personally, in our life, especially since like January 15th or so, and for the next 30 days, for about the next month, we're feeling, and we should be looking at our life in very, again, sort of cold, rational, practical terms, and feeling the pressure to like accomplish, like, well, what am I doing? What am I accomplishing? What am I doing around what's happening in my life? Maybe I have this sense of purpose and this sense of devotion that in some ways feels very clear that I'm aligned with something higher. But what's happening in my life that I'm really committed to and concentrating on? Because the sun is in Capricorn. So this full moon in Cancer is to harmonize that sort of cold, rational look at our life that we should be doing right now with the sun in Capricorn. We should be taking that sort of cold, hard look at what are we committed to? What are we concentrating on? And what do we need to kind of let go of? What has worn out its welcome? What has been in our life long enough? And what do we need to let go of because it's, again, like worn out its time, worn out its welcome in our life? So those things are important now in a general context, because that's like the month from mid-January to mid-February. But as we get closer to this full moon in Cancer, we need to stay connected to the heart and stay connected to that sense of devotion not just emotions on the surface, but deeper devotion. So the deeper devotion behind that cold, rational look at life, that's what we really need to be focused on. And of course, if you're not aware, this is Vedic astrology, which uses the sidereal zodiac, right? And it's starts the zodiac on a fixed point in the sky, not on the vernal equinox. So this is the actual star section of space known as Cancer, even though in Western astrology, which doesn't start the zodiac at a fixed point that starts it on the vernal equinox, this is Leo. So this sign of Cancer is very much about deeper devotion, not just emotions. And the nakshatra of Pushya is the nakshatra that is prevalent. Pushya is the nakshatra. It's the section of Cancer that is literally related to the udders of a cow. You know, Cancer is the sign of motherhood, nurturing, selfless love, devotional love, like a mother's love for her children, like breastfeeding and suckling and all of that. Again, this is literally why we know that we're meant to use that the sidereal zodiac is the zodiac. Certainly in Indian astrology, it's really obvious because the nakshatras that exist behind the signs align this way. I mean, this nakshatra of Pushya is one of the obvious ones because literally the sign of Cancer, which is related to motherhood, selfless love, nurturing, the breasts, that body part, this nakshatra, Pushya, in the sign of Cancer is literally like the teats of a cow, like nurturing, like breasts. That's what the symbol is. And if you're talking about the, quote, tropical zodiac, it's in Leo. So, of course, that doesn't really make any sense. How does the sign of breasts wind up in Leo rather than in Cancer, which is about nurturing, motherhood, and literally breasts? So this is an obvious one. There's a lot of them, but this one is one of the bigger ones. So again, in Vedic astrology, it's very clear because you have these dual zodiacs, the signs, and then behind the signs are the deeper energetic potential shown by the nakshatras. So Pushya is ruled by the god Brihaspati. Brihaspati was the priest of the gods. And again, it shows this very sincere, gentle, devotional aspect of Cancer. And there's a great story with this nakshatra. The god Brihaspati, who was the Vedic priest, he was the priest of the gods. He was like the, of the gods when they would assemble, Brihaspati was the one who would lead them in ceremony. And he was, again, like a priest, and he had a really hot young wife named Tara. So the priest had a really hot young wife, and Chandra, who was the god of the moon, became very enamored with Tara, the wife of Brihaspati, and he fell in love with her, and then she fell in love with him. She fell in love with moon god Chandra. Again, she's a hot young babe, and her husband is a priest, probably, think of an old priest, and she's like hot young Tara. He's not exactly, Mr. Excitement, but Chandra, he's the moon god. He's pretty romantic fella. So they fall in love, and then Chandra takes her away. She falls in love with him. Hang on a second. So she falls in love with him, and then they run off together. And then the gods get impatient and say, okay, Tara, you've had your little fling. Now come back home. And she's like, no, I'm not coming back home. So eventually, as everything is about to get destroyed, she finally agrees to come back home. Chandra brings Tara home. And of course, she's pregnant. But she's pregnant, and she's pregnant with, and it's Chandra's child. So then she winds up having Chandra's child. But Brihaspati, the great priest and the great sattvic being, raised the child and loved the child as if the child were his own, which is unusual in all this literature, because usually when someone is an illegitimate child, they get treated badly and all this other kind of stuff. But Brihaspati didn't do that. Brihaspati raised the child. The child was called Buddha, which is also the name of Mercury. Brihaspati raised the child as his own and loved the child just as if it were his own, which is a great energy of this nakshatra. It's about creativity, progeny. Again, this is a sign of Cancer. Selfless love, sattvic love, which is devotional love, not about your own desires. Of course, Brihaspati wasn't very happy. He was disgraced and embarrassed in front of the assemblage of deities and all that, but and he could have banished the child and done all kinds of stuff, mistreated the child, but he didn't, because it wasn't the child's fault, and the child is here, and we have to do our best and raise the child and nurture the child selflessly with devotion and love, regardless of the backstory. You'd be shocked at the nature of these nakshatras. I know a couple people who have important planets in this nakshatra of Pushya, and you'll see stories that align with stories like this. Maybe not illegitimate children, but sometimes I've heard a couple where it's exactly this kind of thing, or where there's stories of unfairness and deceit, and then selfless giving, love, and nurturing. So again, the symbol of this nakshatra is the teats of a cow. It's just that selfless love and nurturing and succulence and suckling a child, that is the power of this nakshatra. So that story is a beautiful story. It's also the story of how Buddha, which is Mercury, which rules the buddhi, was conceived of by Chandra, which is the moon, and Tara, which is the Shakti or the power of Brihaspati, which is related to Jupiter. So it's also a very beautiful, interesting story about the origin of the buddhi, or the intellect, as coming from the heart, being born of the waxing and waning moon. And so for this crime against Dharma, Chandra was then forced to wax and wane, to always be restless and wandering because of this thing that he did. So it's a very beautiful story connected to this nakshatra. And it's one that really gives us insight into a lot of things. So it's really a time for you to be established in that rational and intelligent and thoughtful and humble nature of Capricorn, with the sun in Capricorn. These planets, you see Mars is almost in Capricorn, Mercury and Venus will be there soon. But rather than just being disconnected from the heart and in this kind of cold rational state, aligning with devotion. Again, listen to that story. It wasn't just a lot of emotions. The thing I said at the beginning, talking about how the moon in Cancer and how the moon and the sign of Cancer are very much about how we can just be overwrought with emotion and feel like our whole purpose, our whole existence and reason for living is to try to be happy and to be emotionally comfortable. We usually get this equation way off toward the end of like, well, but we got to be happy, but we got to be happy, but we got to be happy. And we don't look so much at the, well, but we can't just be pursuing what makes us feel good and emotionally happy all the time. We need to be taking this deep look. This is why, and the only reason why, frankly, why Saturn is quote, malefic. None of the planets in and of themselves do anything bad. They're not harmful. But Saturn feels malefic because it makes us grow up and be mature. And we don't want to. Mostly we want to be a baby. I'm saying this because, again, the sun is in Capricorn, then it goes to Aquarius, and Saturn is really powerful right now. And again, all of the planets are auspicious. They're not just auspicious, they're like the gods of that thing. The capacity for you to concentrate and work hard and do what you know is right, regardless of how it feels in the moment and all like that, which is really the thing that brings about the greatness in your life. All of the greatness you have in your life is because of that capacity. It comes from Saturn, actually, from that Saturn energy. And yet we're always like, oh God, when's it going to stop? Saturn, oh, it's bad. Oh, but we can't just all be work. We have to feel good too. We always make that concession. We do plenty to feel good. Most of our life revolves around feeling good. We don't need lessons in how to feel good. We do it all the time. We mostly live to be comfortable, to feel good, not to do the things that we know are right and concentrate on them regardless of how they feel. So in fact, these next couple months, this next month and a half with the sun going through Capricorn and then going through Aquarius is really focused on that, because then, as you see, the sun is going to then join Saturn in Aquarius. And so we have to get ready and get used to this Saturn energy now for the next couple months as he goes through Capricorn and then goes through Aquarius. And as I said at the beginning of the video, again, we're just at the beginning of 2024. As you can see, the next big shift that happens, the first thing that's really infused this year, and you can see this is from the 2024 forecast. I said at the beginning of the year, the big thing that's going to be really impactful from January 1st is Jupiter turns direct and feeling re-inspired and ready to move forward since September. That's been really the prevailing energy since the beginning of the year. And again, I don't put every single thing in that, but it's not just that Jupiter was moving forward, but then you have all these planets in Jupiter's sign. So again, in this 2024 forecast, which you can get for free if you haven't gotten it yet, you can get the download and watch the video. This was the real prevailing energy at the beginning of the year until we get to February, like February 5th. So this first month of the year, we're very driven by this Jupiter energy, like I've already been saying. So even though there's stuff going on, we're very driven by the inspiration and purpose of Jupiter here at the beginning of the year. All these planets there. Jupiter is also aspecting these planets in Sagittarius, right? And so again, they're going to continue going through that section. But then we have February 5th to March 14th, Mars and Capricorn, fight the good fight. Discipline and courage to face life's hardships, especially internally, is important. So that's going to be from February 5th to March 14th as Mars moves through here. And again, during that time, the sun is going to be here at the beginning, but then it goes into Aquarius, joins Saturn. So again, all that heavy, important Saturn energy is going to be prevalent through, again, March 14th. That's how long it takes the sun to be going through Aquarius. So again, these are all big shifts, and you want to understand this exalted Mars at that time is going to really be trying to deliver the power. So again, this forecast is free. If you haven't gotten it yet, you should really do it. It doesn't ask anything of you. But then shortly after that, April 1st, April 21st, 4th, we have Mercury retrograde, and then we have April 8th, the solar eclipse in Pisces. So then we have all of this energy up here. Mercury's going to keep going, and then he goes retrograde back, and then we have the eclipse. So then by the time we're into April and into the spring, then we start having this shift into this Pisces energy, and especially that Mercury retrograde and then the eclipse. So again, this is very important stuff that's right ahead. And then Then before you know it, Jupiter goes into Taurus. So again, you want to really look at that as well if you haven't gotten that free forecast yet. So I wanted to tell you that again before we finish up here. And again, this full moon in Cancer is big shift right now for you to embody that Saturn energy, that Capricorn energy, and then also really connect with your deeper, with your deeper sensitivities around all of these things.
Go to 2024vedicastrology.com to download the 11 most important shifts in 2024. Don't be blindsided by the upcoming eclipses, retrogrades. You can get the free forecast, which is both the PDF download as well as the free video report. And again, this free report will allow you to discover important shifts for your sign, how to align with higher wisdom and purpose and hope in 2024 as Jupiter shifts and moves into Taurus. Also, different placements such as exalted Mars at the beginning of the year, debilitated Mars at the end of the year, the big 1-2 punch at the beginning of this year, when and how communication problems will be occurring throughout the year with the Mercury retrograde cycles, all kinds of other things that you want to understand. This is a free PDF download and then also a free web class. So go ahead, go to 2024vedicastrology.com and download that now.
For a limited time, I'm offering 10 hours of masterclasses, Yoga and Vedic Astrology, Quantum Vedic Astrology, and Spiritual Astrology Masterclass. These are 3 great courses that will really help you a lot. Now, in case you don't know who I am, I taught the AstroVed certification course, Dattatreya Shiva Baba, in 2010. Ravi Shankar published my book in 2018. I've been around for decades. I've been teaching these great classes, and if you go to VedicAstrologyEssentials.com, you can get this 90% off discount of these 3 great classes, more than 10 hours, guaranteed value. You can check this out. These 3 classes will give you all the necessary tools to begin to learn Vedic astrology. Please find me on YouTube at Sam Jeppy, Vedic Astrology Teacher. On there since 2007, thousands of hours of classes. Also on Facebook at Astrology Teacher, tons of articles updated regularly, and I'm on Instagram at Vedic Astrology 108, ongoing updates and interaction.